I actually focused on learning to do nothing because I had done something for so many years, so much, that I thought this is an opportunity to be allowing and to not have to put everything together, not have to make things happen, and not be in control. And it took a good long time.
The reason that we are having such a good time with you is because we want to put forth the idea that deliberately doing nothing is doing something. And that it is the smartest thing that you could ever do, because in deliberately doing nothing, you are deliberately reaching for the state of allowing, which allows everything that you've ever wanted to come into place. When you realize that in everything that you've been living, you've been asking. And so Source, who adores you and hears you and understands you and is answering you, is responding in the steady, consistent way that it is, that when you decide finally, and it usually you have to beat yourself up pretty good before you come to that place, but when you finally decide that you are going to afford yourself a block of time where you do not push yourself to do something that you do not want to do, or where you do not force yourself to do something when you would rather not do it, but instead you choose what feels best to you, then all kinds of things come into place. And we were also teasing with you a little bit because we know that when you make the decision to do nothing and you get into that place of allowing, that then all kinds of inspiration to do things comes forth, because it isn't about doing nothing, it's about feeling better about what you are doing.
And I thought, well, you could just like decide you're not going to work and just keep sitting on the beach. And I didn't have the courage or the ability to do that. And so I went back to work. I had a terrible job and I had a mediocre job, and now I find myself in an excellent job that I'm grateful to have. But I really liked the independence. And so I had to come back and like sit on this hot stove. And so I thought, okay, I have all these tools, I know how to do it. I spent weeks getting to where I would, feel good. But I'm like back in a similar, not the same hole, but I'm back at work doing somebody else's work.
There is more joyful experience in the deliberate doing of something than in the indeliberate doing of something. And there's actually more joy in the deliberate doing of something than in the deliberate not doing of something. And what we mean by that is when you deliberately focus and energy flows through you and you feel in control of what you're doing, that is like the optimum experience, whether you are physically focused or not. You've sort of set yourself up for not liking working, and you're sort of continuing the story, and we were trying to sort of set you off from that a little bit as you speak, and a lot of people do, that work is not a good thing and that leisure time is. And what we like to say is that there are things that you can focus upon that feel good and things that you focus upon that don't feel good, and the environment in which you are doing it is sort of a non-issue. In other words, there are people in what anyone would call a work environment that are on fire with the joy of their work because they're focused with no resistance. But there's something about deciding that you're in bondage or deciding that you're not free and then applying yourself that keeps it from ever being a very good feeling experience, because you already have a vibrational drum that you're beating that says, I'm really not free and I'm having to do something I don't want to do. You can be joyful in anything that you are doing, but you have to stop saying, I don't have choices, when in fact you do. You said to us, I had the choice of working or not working. Now, what you really meant was, well, I really didn't have the choice, because if I don't go to work, I don't have any money. And if I don't have any money, then there are all kinds of other choices that I've made that can't be satisfied. Right. But really, there are a lot of people that are on the beach today that don't have any money. In other words, that is an option. And there are a lot of people on the beach today who have plenty of money. In other words, you just have to decide what you most want to do. But what you more than anything have to do is stop deciding more what you don't want. In other words, you have to start saying what you do want. Now, what we would like to say to all of you about this is that that really is the way your life is supposed to be. It's what you had in mind when you came forth into these bodies. You knew that this was an environment that had the potential to surprise and delight you in endless ways. You never said, I'll go forth and pay a price. And once I've paid a big enough price, I will allow myself a little bit of pleasure in return for the hardship. Because from your non-physical perspective, you understand that that is not the way it works. In other words, we would like all of you to assume the identity of one who is on an endless cruise, or one who is on an endless beach, or one who is on an endless path of beaches and cruises and interesting things and interesting people and interesting subjects and wonderful, adventurous, delicious, wonderful things to do. In other words, we would like you to adopt that as your identity. And it takes some living of the other to spike that desire enough that you begin to do that, but there is no reason for you to have less than one joyful moment after one joyful moment after one joyful moment. You do not have to dip back in to the unwanted. So what is in the vibrational makeup of you or of anyone that makes you think that? In other words, where do you pick up this I have to pay a price sort of thing? I have to work for many years before I get to retire, and then we see those in retirement in absolute boredom or a limp sort of feeling because they are accustomed to having energy drawn through them. So we can understand how lying on the beach or saying I have nothing to do would feel like a marked improvement over having to do something you don't want to do, especially for someone who does not seem to be appreciating the efforts that you are making. But we have to say to you, that if you can get focused in an attitude of non-resistance, that almost anything that you might choose to do would in the long run feel better than choosing nothing because you are a focusing mechanism. It's the hardest thing that physical friends hear from us. The most difficult thing that they hear from us is that you really do want to be an active participator in this life experience. You really do want to have reason to focus and reason to decide. You really do want hands-on creative control of your life experience. And we think that the story that you told us is not about wanting to do nothing. We think the story that you told us is about wanting less resistance in your life.
Yes,
we think that the story that you told us is about having more individual say in where you get to turn your attention.
Exactly.
We don't think it's about doing or not doing. We think it's about the feeling of bondage, or what makes that seem better to you than what you have.
I guess I feel I don't own it, and it's not something that I created and that I want for myself. I feel it's something that I just have to do, and I absolutely can make the best of it, and I can enjoy it. But if I really had a choice, I would not be going there every day.
If you were laying on the beach and it suddenly became 37 degrees, would you stay there anyway?
Well, no.
So you would make the best of the situation and you would go somewhere else?
Yeah.
So you don't have control over the weather, and yet you feel freer in the beach environment than you do in the work environment. We're just going to torture you just a little bit here because we want to show you that you and almost everybody else you know have stubbornly concluded that there is so much more that you don't like about being at work than that you do like, that when you are there, you set yourself up almost without exception for automatic disruption in your energy vibration, which does not need to be there. That you could train out of yourself with a little bit of effort, and we promise you a day at work could feel as good as a day on the beach if you could just do that. If you could begin saying to yourself things like, hey, I choose to be here. Nobody is making me be there. They wouldn't put me in jail if I said I'm not coming tomorrow. I probably wouldn't even lose my job, but I have the choice of being here or not being here in the bigger picture, and I'm choosing to be here. Can't you feel how saying I'm choosing to be here feels infinitely better than I have no choice in being here?
Oh, yes.
So we would stop saying I have no choice in being here. We would start saying I choose to be here. So now let's follow this path of least resistance idea that we were talking about. So your most depressed or discouraging thought is I have to be someplace I don't want to be. I'm in bondage. And your best scenario is I'm on the beach and I can stay here as long as I want to be here and I really don't have to do anything. So let's build some bridges between there and see if you can begin feeling the resistance lift from you. So I have to be here. I really don't want to be here. But I'm here by my choice. And I did attract this work environment. And I'm quite pleased with it in comparison with some other work environments. And I realize that I did a good job of attracting this, and there are components of being here that are more satisfying than others. Now, all of those statements are true, and we can feel as we speak them, your vibration raises to them instantly. In other words, you feel all of that. So can you feel how these words that we are suggesting are more aligning, and by that we mean aligning you with you. Aligning you with you. They're more aligning in nature than some of the other words that you've been speaking here to us here today. So if you're reaching for the thought that feels best, you see, the issue is not, should I work or should I be on the beach? It's not about those choices. The issue is, what thoughts can I think while I'm on the beach, or what thoughts can I think while I'm in the work environment that align me with me? What are the freeing thoughts? And we want you to feel what we mean by freedom, because the freedom that you have always been looking for is not the freedom from the bondage of the work, it's the freedom from the bondage of the resistance in your vibration that does not allow you to really be who you are. The freedom that you're looking for is the freedom from resistance, which means the freedom that you are looking for is the freedom from bondage thoughts. The freedom that you're looking for is the freedom of the energy flowing. So you say, oh, here I am. I'm in this work environment where they pay me to be here. That's a good thing. And they expect good things from me. That's a good thing. And I'm capable of satisfying them. That's a good thing. In other words, can you feel how aligning in nature those are?
I mean, that is a theme through this whole experience that I've had, is saying, you know, what do you say? Are you going to be happy or not? And what do you require? Can you be happy in this moment or not?
The reason that we have been so eager to have this discussion with you is because this discussion speaks to the heart of the greatest dilemma that our deliberate creative friends feel, or any human friend, whether they are deliberately creating or not. And that is, do I respond to my environment and therefore need to control it, which I can't do? Or do I achieve a thought by sheer practice of achieving thoughts and establish a vibration which then creates an environment? In other words, it's one way or the other. You're either observing what is and responding to what is, or you are conjuring an image and what is responding to the conjured image. And so that's why so many people really believe that they have to control the circumstances. That's why there are so many laws and so many rules, is because people, when they look out and they see something that makes them feel good, they say, yes, more of that. But when they look out and see something that doesn't feel good, they say, no, no, we do not want more of that. And then they attempt en masse the impossible. They say, I would feel better under this condition. I've got to control that condition. And that was, in fact, what you were attempting to do. What you were saying to us is, Abraham, I want plenty of money to just not do anything, but I don't believe that is possible. And so we say, therefore, for now, it is impossible.
Right.
So, and then you went on to say, I'm happiest when I don't have to do anything, but I can't ever see a way that I won't have to do anything, so I have, in essence, resigned myself to a less than happy life. And we say, we wouldn't accept that if we were standing in your physical shoes. We would say, there's got to be another way around this. And when you discover that there is another way around this, then you put to rest once and for all the dilemma that almost everyone faces, which says, I need you to be different before I can feel better. You don't have to wait for them to figure it out. When you discover that you can feel better, whether anything changes or not, then everything changes. But until you figure it out, nothing can change. You have to say, I can find happiness right where I stand. No matter what it is, I can find happiness. Because when you find it, when you find a little piece of it, the universe will yield a little more. And when you focus on that, the universe will yield a little more. Until before you know it, one less resistant thought at a time, you're right out there on the beach where you want to be, thinking of all kinds of things you want to do.
That you want to do, yes. To leave the beach, yeah. All right.